Most people think millionaires are created by money. They're wrong. Money doesn't create the mindset creates the money. If you're waiting to have more before you think bigger, you'll stay exactly where you are. Because millionaire thinking doesn't start in your bank account, it starts in your head, and once this clicks, your entire life changes. Number one, wealth begins with decisions, not dollars, because money is never the starting point, it's the result. Long before wealth shows up in a bank account, it shows up in the choices someone makes when no one is watching. The choice to wake up earlier instead of sleeping in, the choice to learn instead of scrolling, the choice to think long-term in a world addicted to instant gratification. Most people think they need money to change their life, but in reality, they need to change their standards first. Decisions shape habits, habits shape behavior, and behavior shapes income. That's why two people can earn the same amount and end up in completely different financial realities. One lets money control their decisions, the other lets their decisions control their money. Every wealthy outcome starts with a moment of personal responsibility, not motivation, not luck, responsibility. The decision to stop blaming circumstances and start owning outcomes. When you decide that your future is your responsibility, everything shifts. You stop asking what's fair and start asking what works. You stop reacting and start planning. You stop living paycheck to paycheck emotionally, mentally, financially. Wealthy thinkers decide to delay comfort for growth, pleasure for progress, and approval for purpose. These decisions don't look impressive at first. They're quiet, they're boring, but they compound. And compound decisions eventually create compound results. Most people wait for more money before they decide to act differently. Wealthy thinkers act differently before the money arrives. They decide to invest in skills. They decide to protect their time. They decide to say no to things that don't move them forward. They understand that every dollar is a vote, but every decision is a direction. Money follows direction. If your decisions are rooted in fear, comfort, and short-term pleasure, money will never stay. But when decisions are rooted in discipline, vision, and self-control, money has no choice but to multiply. Wealth doesn't respond to wishing. It responds to structure. This is why wealth is predictable. Not because life is easy, but because decisions are consistent. The decision to learn how money works. The decision to build before you buy. The decision to think in years while others think in weekends. Wealth begins the moment someone decides to stop living like the average person, stop copying broke behaviors, and stop outsourcing their future to chance. Because once that decision is made, every action starts aligning, every habit starts changing, and every opportunity starts looking different, long before a single dollar ever changes hands. Number two, your habits shape your income before your income shapes your life, because money is simply a mirror of what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally wish for. Income is built quietly, day after day, through patterns that seem insignificant in the moment, but become powerful over time. The way you start your mornings, the way you use idle time, the way you respond to discomfort, and the way you manage distractions, all add up long before any paycheck reflects it. Most people focus on chasing higher income without ever addressing the habits that produce their current situation, which is why even when money increases, their lifestyle expands just as fast and nothing actually changes. Habits decide whether money becomes a tool or a trap. Before income upgrades your life, habits decide whether you're even capable of handling more. Consistent routines create discipline, and discipline creates reliability. Reliability turns into opportunity. Opportunity turns into income. People who build strong habits don't rely on motivation because motivation is emotional and temporary. They rely on structure. They show up even when it's boring, even when results are invisible, even when no one is applauding. These habits create internal standards, and internal standards always outperform external pressure. When your habits demand growth, income has no choice but to follow. Without those habits, money arrives briefly and disappears just as fast. Every income level has a matching lifestyle shaped by behavior. If your habits revolve around comfort, avoidance, and instant pleasure, any increase in income will simply fund the same patterns at a higher price. More spending, more distractions, more noise. But when habits revolve around learning, execution, and long-term thinking, income becomes a lever instead of a limitation. Wealthy individuals don't rise because they earn more at first. They earn more because their habits prepare them to receive more. They read when others relax, they build when others consume, and they protect their energy like an asset. Their income reflects their daily standards. Habits also determine how you react to setbacks. Poor habits panic. Strong habits adjust. Income is never stable without stable behavior behind it. That's why real growth feels slow in the beginning. Habits must change before outcomes do. Once habits are aligned, income becomes predictable. Not overnight, but inevitably. Life doesn't change when income changes. Life changes when habits change first, because habits dictate how money is earned, managed, multiplied, and maintained long before it ever reaches your hands. Number 3, long-term thinking separates the rich from the broke because most people are trapped in the moment they're standing in. They make decisions based on how something feels right now instead of where it leads later. Comfort, convenience, and quick rewards dominate their choices, while consequences are postponed and ignored. Long-term thinkers move differently. They understand that every action has a delayed reaction and that real success rarely rewards urgency. They're willing to feel uncomfortable today to avoid being desperate tomorrow. While others chase instant validation, long-term thinkers build foundations, knowing that what compounds slowly lasts longer than what spikes fast. Short-term thinking asks, "What do I get today?" Long-term thinking asks, "What does this cost me in 5 years?" That shift alone changes everything. It changes how time is spent, how money is handled, and how opportunities are evaluated. Long-term thinkers don't rush into purchases, relationships, or decisions just to satisfy emotion. They measure outcomes. They consider trade-offs. They understand that every yes is also a no to something else. This awareness creates discipline. It keeps them from wasting energy on distractions that feel good now but lead nowhere later. Broke thinking reacts. Long-term thinking designs. The rich think in systems, not events. They don't rely on single wins, lucky breaks, or one-time effort. They build processes that produce results repeatedly. This is why they're patient with progress, but ruthless with consistency. They understand that wealth is built in seasons, not moments. What looks like slow progress to others is actually strategic positioning. Long-term thinkers invest in skills, relationships, and knowledge that won't pay off immediately, but will compound over time. They're comfortable working in silence because they're focused on outcomes, not applause. Broke thinking wants proof before commitment. Long-term thinking commits before proof. That's why most people quit early. They can't tolerate delayed gratification. They want results without repetition, rewards without routine, success without sacrifice. Long-term thinkers accept the opposite. They trust the process because they understand math, not hope. Small improvements, repeated daily, eventually create massive separation. This mindset turns time into an ally instead of an enemy. While others waste years reacting to life, long-term thinkers are quietly building a future that eventually makes their past struggles irrelevant. Number 4, ownership mindset beats employee mindset because it changes how a person views responsibility, value, and control. An employee mindset waits for instructions, approval, and stability before taking action. It measures success by hours worked and tasks completed. An ownership mindset measures success by outcomes created and problems solved. Owners think in terms of impact, leverage, and scalability, while employees often think in terms of security and predictability. This difference isn't about job titles, it's about perspective. You can be employed and still think like an owner, or run a business and still think like an employee. The mindset determines whether you build something that grows or remain dependent on someone else's system. An ownership mindset takes full responsibility, even when things go wrong. There's no passing blame, no waiting for someone else to fix the problem, no excuse-based thinking. Owners ask, "How do I make this better?" instead of, "Whose fault is this?" That mentality creates growth. It forces learning, adaptation, and accountability. Employee thinking often stops at the edge of the job description, while ownership thinking expands beyond it. Owners look for inefficiencies, gaps, and opportunities because they understand that value creation leads to reward. They don't just complete tasks, they improve systems. Employee mindset trades time for money and sees time as a limited resource. Ownership mindset builds assets that work beyond the clock. Owners think about leverage, tools, people, processes, and ideas that multiply effort. They focus on building once and benefiting repeatedly. This is why ownership thinking creates freedom over time, while employee thinking often creates dependence. Employees seek raises. Owners seek equity. Employees focus on income. Owners focus on value. The difference compounds as years pass, even if both start in the same place. Ownership mindset also changes how risk is perceived. Employees see risk as something to avoid, while owners see calculated risk as the cost of growth. They understand that staying comfortable is often the biggest risk of all. Ownership thinking doesn't mean reckless decisions. It means intentional ones. It means accepting short-term uncertainty for long-term control. People with this mindset invest in skills, build relationships, and create opportunities instead of waiting for them. They don't ask for permission to grow. They design paths forward. Over time, this way of thinking separates those who depend on systems from those who build them. Number 5. Delayed gratification is the real currency of wealth because every meaningful financial outcome requires the ability to say no now so you can say yes later. Most people understand this concept intellectually but fail to apply it emotionally. They choose what feels good in the moment over what builds security in the future. Spending replaces saving, entertainment replaces education, and comfort replaces discipline. Wealthy individuals don't necessarily want less. They simply have the ability to wait. That ability to delay pleasure is what allows resources to compound instead of disappear. Money grows when it's given time and structure, and time only works in your favor when you're patient enough to let it. The struggle with delayed gratification isn't about willpower alone. It's about identity. People who see themselves as builders are willing to endure temporary discomfort because they're focused on a future version of their life. They understand that every impulsive decision steals from tomorrow. Every unnecessary purchase, every wasted hour, every shortcut taken adds up. Delayed gratification isn't deprivation, it's prioritization. It's choosing long-term freedom over short-term validation. While others are spending to feel important, disciplined thinkers are investing to become independent. The gap between the two grows quietly, year after year. Wealth is built by people who can tolerate boredom, repetition, and slow progress. Delayed gratification means working without immediate rewards, learning without applause, and saving without visible lifestyle upgrades. This is where most people quit. They mistake silence for failure and slow growth for stagnation. But compounding rewards patience. Small sacrifices made consistently create exponential outcomes. The ability to delay gratification turns effort into momentum and momentum into security. This is why wealth often looks sudden to outsiders, even though it's been building invisibly for years. Delayed gratification also changes how time is valued. Instead of filling every moment with pleasure, wealthy thinkers allocate time intentionally. They invest hours into skills, relationships, and systems that will pay off later. They don't need constant stimulation because they're focused on construction, not consumption. This mindset protects them from lifestyle inflation and emotional spending. When gratification is delayed, control increases. When control increases, wealth becomes sustainable. The discipline to wait, to plan, and to endure temporary discomfort becomes more valuable than money itself because it determines how money is earned, managed, and multiplied. Number 6. Identity comes before income because money can only grow to the level of the person managing it. Long before financial results change, self-perception has to shift. The way someone sees themselves determines what they tolerate, what they pursue, and what they believe is possible. Income is not just a number, it is a reflection of internal standards. If someone identifies as average, they will make average decisions even when opportunities appear. If someone identifies as disciplined, capable, and growth-oriented, their actions naturally align with higher outcomes. Money doesn't upgrade identity. Identity sets the ceiling for money. Most people try to change income without changing who they are. They chase better jobs, side hustles, or investments while carrying the same habits, fears, and limiting beliefs. This creates a constant cycle of progress and regression. Any increase in income feels temporary because the identity underneath hasn't evolved. When challenges arise, they fall back to old patterns. Identity determines consistency, and consistency determines results. People act in alignment with who they believe they are, not who they hope to become. Until identity shifts, income struggles to stabilize or grow. Wealthy identities are built through daily evidence, keeping promises to yourself, showing up when it's inconvenient, choosing growth over comfort repeatedly. These small actions reinforce a new self-image. Over time, the person stops forcing discipline because it becomes natural. They no longer ask if they should work harder, learn more, or think bigger. It's simply who they are. This internal shift changes decision-making automatically. Opportunities are recognized faster, risks are calculated more confidently, standards rise without external pressure, income follows because behavior has changed at the root. Identity also shapes how setbacks are handled. Someone who identifies as a builder sees failure as feedback, not a verdict. They adjust instead of quitting. They separate temporary outcomes from permanent self-worth. This resilience allows them to stay in the game longer than most, and staying in the game is where wealth is created. When identity is aligned with growth, effort becomes sustainable and progress becomes inevitable. Income eventually catches up to the person you've become because money responds to behavior, and behavior always follows identity. Millionaire thinking is built long before money ever shows up. Change the way you decide, the way you act, and the way you see yourself. When your mindset evolves, your habits follow. And when habits change, wealth becomes a natural outcome.